So now for more, we've reached Alex Harris, who is a transgender LGBTQ student advocate and joins us from Riverview, New Brunswick. Thank you for making time for us.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so now you watch these protests, you're watching the coverage of them. What goes through your mind as you see them unfold?
It's kind of scary. It's scary because I know, like me, there's trans kids in school and there's queer kids in school all over this country that are seeing this, and we're scared because these people are misunderstanding us and they're standing out there trying to eliminate us in a way. They're trying to eliminate any talk of us in school, which isn't possible because LGBTQ people are everywhere and it's not possible to eliminate us. And yet they're trying.
When you say there's a fear that is being felt within the community, within students who are watching these demonstrations, what is the fear in relation to what you might experience then when you head back to school?
What do you mean?
In terms of being frightened, you articulated, of course, that there is the fear of this elimination, of discussion, of who you are as people, as a community. Is there any greater or larger fear, too, that exists for you?
There's also the fear that there could be, that the spread of this hate and the spread of this misinformation could lead to violence and could lead to greater issues within society later on, and even tomorrow. I could go to school tomorrow and the bullying and the hate at school could get worse. And if it does, there's a high chance it was because these protests have made people think that it is okay to bully and it is okay to hate us.
You know, we have seen reports suggesting that those who have been targeted when it comes to hate crimes, there's been an increase in that. Have you seen that? Have you experienced that? What's your observation?
It's definitely been worse since I've gone back to school, in September. If I see two guys who are known to be queer hug in the hallway, people go, "You gross," or or say explicitives, and it's something that would happen, but definitely not to the same extent. And I have had more slurs yelled at me in the hallway since I've gone back to school this September than I ever have previously. And I've been out at school as a part of the LGBTQ community for probably 5 years now.
Now, is your belief, Alex, that because of the environment or the atmosphere surrounding these protests, that it wouldn't be a place where you would feel safe because you've decided not to be part of those counter protests today?
Yeah, I was invited and I seriously considered going to the counter protest across the river in Moncton today. But yeah, I was talking to my parents and they were like, they said they would support me if I went, but they advised against it because it's not safe to go to that. We don't know how people are going to react to the counter protests. We don't know if there's going to be clashes between us and the protesters. So I decided for myself, I wanted to stay away from being in physical danger and instead advocate by speaking to people, sitting in a safe position.
And of course, we know that a lot of the policies that is really at the center of the demonstrations we're seeing today, part of that is in New Brunswick, in Saskatchewan, when it comes to involving parents in the decisions of students to use certain pronouns or to identify a certain way. And the parents feel that they should be involved, and the schools, in some cases, suggesting the policy should be that if the school can be a safe place for the students and these students don't believe their home is, then that should be respected. For you, what's the argument for not involving parents for those who don't particularly understand your point of view right now?
Um, I came out at school before I talked to my parents, and there was a small period of time before I was comfortable enough to talk to my parents where my teachers used the name and pronouns that made me comfortable at school while still using my old name and pronouns when talking to my parents. And then but I was never encouraged not to tell my parents, and I was never encouraged to keep secrets from them. It was simply understood that it was going to be a little bit longer before I was ready to talk to my parents, because I wasn't sure yet if they were going to be supportive, but I knew that because policies were in place, my school had to be a supportive place for me. And then I was able to talk to my parents, and I was able to gain the confidence to talk to my parents because I had that support behind me at school. Now I have amazingly supportive parents, but that's not the case for every student. I know a lot of students, as I've said before, I know students who would be at risk of physical abuse if they came out to their parents, or would be kicked out if they came out to their parents. And in those cases, it shouldn't be that kids need their parents' permission to be themselves at school, or that students students have to be scared in order to be themselves at school, that it's going to have repercussions at home. It should be that school feels safe, even if home isn't able to be a safe place.
And finally, I wanted to ask you, because you pointed out how much the situation has escalated, how you didn't feel safe going out to be part of the counter-protest today. What do you feel is the best way to de-escalate what has become a growing issue right now in conversations?
I think there's got to be empathy and understanding. I think people have to kind of disconnect from their own argument for a moment and put themselves in someone else's shoes, and kind of have that understanding of where other people are coming from. And then the discussion has to recommence with empathy at the forefront, because what this conversation is lacking right now is empathy and understanding.
Alex, thank you so much for joining us today and for sharing your experience. We appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
Alex Harris is a transgender LGBTQ student advocate. We reached him in Riverview, New Brunswick. Thanks.